Big welcome along to the Young Hearts Run Free podcast. It's a privilege to have you along. Nicky, Spinks, how are you doing this evening?
Yep, very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you for
Yeah.
joining us. This is one of the rare occasions where we're going to be putting this one out in video footage. So John always doesn't look quite as resplendent as he does this evening. How are you, John?
I'm good. I've got myself all dressed up, and you know what? I'm going to call it like it is. I'm a wee bit nervous, if I'm honest. Speaking with Nicky, Nicky's been on our list. We do have a list of guests we'd like to speak to, and Nicky's been there for quite a wee while. So yeah, um, and it's one of the things that you might thought never might have happened, and then along comes Emma Stewart. And Emma Stewart very kindly had a word in Nicky's ear, and here we are. But I'll hand back to you,
Yeah.
Stephen, to...
Nicky, we always ask the same first question on the podcast, and it's so that we can. Now, a lot of people know about you and know about what you've achieved and done, but there's actually some people who don't as well, who maybe be tuned in. I know, shock, horror, but we always ask people what got them into running, what was what lit the fire for Nicky.
Um, well, I think I was brought up on a farm in Glossop, and I was running just to go and get my horse in because it was quicker. I wasn't a runner. I just ran because it was quicker to do stuff around the farm. And then when I left that and not started an office job, I just put the weight on. I would because I'm not running anymore, and I'm sat there eating snacks like you do. And I started running then. And I think I just continued that really until I met my husband, who was a farmer. And when I started farming, I didn't need to run because you're just working all day, and there wasn't really the enjoyment. There wasn't any reason to do it. And then the years went past, and in 2001, that foot and mouth year, a friend of mine was doing Leeds Abbey Dash, like a little park run it was, and I joined her for that. And I think it just sparked it off again that I wanted to start running. I wanted to feel that feeling that you get when you actually, it all works, everything works, and you feel light and free, and you come back and you're all happy because you've just had a really good run. And yeah, so I started it in about 2001, joined a club, Penistone Footpath Runners, because they were a mixed club. They did road, cross country, and then they were on the fells as well. So it was quite a good, base for me. And that's when I learned all about training really, because before them, I was just running 3 times a week, same distance, same route, and obviously, well, not obviously, but you don't get any better. You just stay the same. You do the same. You just stay the same. Um, and yeah, and it was Penistone Footpath Runners that got me, like they introduced me to like longer fell races, like the Trigger is called now, but Marsden to Edale, 20 miles, and Saunders, the mountain marathons that are around the Om, and then the Bob Graham, because Andy Plummer was doing the Bob Graham, and that's when, well, a big penny dropped that this is what I really wanted to do, and it would be amazing if I could, do a 24-hour round. And that's where, yeah, so in 2005, I jumped straight in and attempted the Bob Graham, and yeah, got around in 23 and a half without, it was hard, and I felt, no, there was lots of hard bits in it, but I always just knew I could do it. Yeah, so I suppose after that, I did the Scottish round, the Welsh round, moved on to 100-mile races for a change, went to Europe, did some suffering, learning all about 100-mile races, and then, yeah, just realized that I was getting faster and that I should try doing the records of the 24-hour rounds. So I did those one after one each year, um, and then went to longer, like, so I started doing things like the double Bob Graham, which, well, really just that was in my head for quite a few years before I had the guts to really attempt it, because it was Roger Baumeister, who was part of Dark Peak, that had done the first one, I think, and did it in like 48 hours. So, well, he did it in 47.5, I think. Yeah, excuse me, Roger, if that's wrong. But yeah, so I don't know. What else do you want to know? Yeah.
Oh, I can see John with whetted appetite. Yeah, ready to pounce. So,
Yeah.
John.
I think what I would like to do, there will be some of our listeners, Nicky, listening in going, rounds? What's these rounds that Nicky's talking about? Quite recently, we had, after his Lakeland 100 victory in the summer, we had Andy Berry on talking about. Andy's obviously a big fan of the rounds and doing these type of events. You also mentioned a double. I mean, that really intrigues me as well. But could you, you mentioned the Scottish, the Welsh, and the Bob Graham. Could you give us a brief intro to what the rounds actually are?
Yeah. Well, Bob Graham, they are named after the people that set them up. So yeah, Bob Graham walked round 42 peaks in the Lake District for his 42nd birthday, and he did it within 24 hours, and that became the challenge. And for many years, I think nobody really did it again, but now it's quite popular. And yeah, it's 42 peaks, so it's about 66 miles and about, well, they say, everyone says 10,000 feet of climb. But when you get on the hills, it's all distances and ascent, really. You know, you can't measure them down to the exact mile and the meter. It's all more about time, which is why it's a 24-hour round. So that's the important bit about it, as well as going to all the tops that are on the list. And then the Welsh one's called the Paddy Buckley, and it's got 47 tops. And being in Wales, it's a lot more gnarly. That's how I sort of describe it. The navigation's gnarlier. You can't just, yeah, it's sort of just there's no real easy section either. There's no like not logical, but yeah, easy way to start and finish it. But Paddy Buckley's actually very flexible about where you can start. So you can actually start anywhere on that round to do that, which gives people the option of doing it to suit themselves. And then the Charlie Ramsey's 23 Munros and a Munro that was demoted. So it's 24 mountains, but unfortunately the 24th one's not a Munro. And yeah, that's just that's so different because it's a lot less well known, and hardly any paths on some of it. So you're just tramping up a big heathery 1,000-meter peak for like an hour and a half. So it's quite different, that one, more remote, and there's really only 3 sections. So that breaks it down. So these supporters have to be also more capable of supporting when you get onto the Charlie Ramsey, because they've got 7 hours to support you on some of them, whereas the other 2 rounds have got more meeting points, so that it's, you know, divided up into say 4 or 5 sections.
I don't think we've ever had anybody as well qualified to give an introduction or description of what the rounds are. That was perfect, Nicky. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Sorry, the side questions have started already, Nicky. Are any more challenging than the rest?
Well, people always say this. I mean, the Bob Graham, I would say, is a good starter because it's more well known. The support points are easier to get to, and I think most of it is on paths, or all of it even now is on sort of paths that you can follow. Whereas the Paddy Buckley and the Charlie Ramsey, I would say, are as hard, but in different ways. Because yeah, it's sort of slippery rock on the Paddy Buckley that make it harder. And then the Charlie Ramsey's hard because it's remote and you generally get a bit of rubbish weather somewhere up there. You know, somehow because
welcome to
yeah,
Scotland.
or midges or clegs.
Yeah, the hazards are high.
Not that the midges or clegs will stop you from getting round and round, and slippery rock might not, but they just make life a lot more unpleasant for you and your supporters. Yeah.
The Ramsey round, am I right in saying that the bailout options are a bit less on that in terms of being able to get off the hill?
Yeah, definitely.
And
I
that
mean,
maybe
once the grey corries, you sort of so remote, you might as well carry on than try to bail out.
Yeah.
Sorry, too many questions.
So the Bob Graham round's easy. That's what I'm hearing, John. You get John. You get tore in about it
as an intro. But I'm keen to know though, and you did mention this, that it came on your radar, the rounds. But what lit your desire to go and do that in 24 hours? Was it just a personal test for you to see if you could do it in 24 hours? Was it as simple as that?
Yeah, I mean, they are challenges, so there's no prizes. And it was just to see if I could do it. And the fact that I like tramping up big hills.
Yeah. And you've done it in some style. I think you're the first person ever to hold the record for all the rounds at the same time. Is that correct?
Yeah.
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 Brilliant.
And do them all under 20 hours as well.
Yeah.
When I first did it.
It's like the stuff of folklore you're speaking about. So like I said at the start around about us being privileged to speak to you about it. I know that John gets, do you know the term up to high dough? Is that something you're familiar with? It's when you get quite excited during the day at the prospect of something that's maybe happening later on. Yeah. So John's been up to high dough today. He's messaged me a few times. But you mentioned the double rounds, and is that just the next logical step after, right, okay, I've nailed all the rounds, I'm sub 20 for them all, let's up the level and go for the doubles?
It was a number of things really. I was finding going fast was getting harder. I mean, I'd done the records, but then Jasmine went round and whooped my ass with it. She got all the records like a young, like I think, she deserved. And I don't know, the double Bob Graham, because I'd read it in the little booklet from the Dart Peak. It was 40 years of Dart Peak. There was a little extract in there. And I just thought, how about, it was sort of a celebration of surviving 10 years of cancer came round, and I wanted something to do. I wanted something to do that highlighted the fact that I was still alive, because when I had the cancer in 2006, there wasn't a lot of good stories out there, and I was searching for one, to give me hope that I would survive. And so I sort of made it, because I'm not usually a person that puts stuff out there so much, but I wanted to put it out there. So I wanted this film to be made about it. And I wanted to raise money for the charity Odyssey that I support. So I sort of put my head on the line and said, I'm going to do this. But I was very nervous about it because it was like twice as much as anything that I'd ever done before. 2 nights without sleep, and a lot of logistics, organizing the supporters and everything like that. But yeah, it was a magical magical weekend. I mean, obviously I had my highs and lows on the actual event, but the weather was absolutely cracking for it. It was like that cold clear that I really like. I'm not a hot person at all. I don't like the heat. So yeah, things just went really right for me on that. My stomach was, I wasn't sick. I did suffer with sleep deprivation because I set off on Friday night Sunday morning, when I'd gone through 2 nights without sleep, that really kicked in. So I had a little 10-minute sleep on Sunday morning, and that set me right again for another 16 hours, I think. Yeah.
Set me right again. Brilliant. I love it. I also love the fact there, Nicky, that you said you were searching for a story and maybe you couldn't find one, so you just went out and created your own.
Yeah.
But you also invited along a film crew just to add that wee bit more pressure on as well. But fantastic.
And a
I
tracker.
Yeah.
Oh, the pressure of a tracker.
Yeah. Absolutely
The world is
fantastic.
watching.
And you mentioned there about the charity Odyssey. Was that what you? Are
Yeah.
you still involved with that? Yeah. Do you want to say a wee
Yeah.
bit about that?
Yeah. So Odyssey provide holidays, little like week-long breaks for people that have had cancer, and they're outdoor instructors, so you don't have to go climbing or abseiling or whatever, but they'll do yoga or pottery or whatever. But I just thought, having had the cancer, it's so nice to talk to people that have had cancer as well, because you just have that same sort of understanding. I mean, people that don't have cancer, they really try to understand you and help you, but somehow when you've had the cancer, you can talk the language, really, and you can have the same sort of jokes without it being like sensitive and things like that. So I just really felt it was a great little charity to support. So yeah, I've supported them. I met one of the instructors out on the Pyrenees in 2009, I think. Yeah. So yeah, I've supported them since then.
Brilliant. And
It wasn't a charity that I was familiar with, and I'm going to look into them now. It sounds, like they're doing a lot of great work, and shout out to them as well, because sometimes just that awareness raising. We'll pop a wee link in the show notes to their website and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
thank
to
you.
Point people in that direction. John, sorry, I came in on you.
no, it's cool. It's cool. One of the things that always intrigues me, and we always like as well to give a shout out to partners, family, supporters that take place in these things. And you mentioned the word supporters a few times, Nicky, with regards to the rounds. And I think when we spoke to Andy Berry about this, I think he was saying you just put a message on a WhatsApp thing and people just offer themselves, and it's obviously it's a well-known activity for people who are interested in that, and everybody wants to be involved in supporting people. But how do you, Nicky Spinks, gather a team of supporters? Or how did you back when you were doing that for these records? How did you gather the supporters then?
Well, I think right from the first Bob Graham, it's all about giving and taking, or asking. So I do a lot of support, and in fact, apparently, I've supported 55 successful Bob Grahams,
Oh,
because somebody in the Bob Graham Club, Emma actually told me this, because somebody in the Bob Graham Club, they actually record they now record who supports them, because so yeah, I was quite touched with that. But yeah, I liked supporting, and now I think I'm doing more supporting than, because I'm not doing so many rounds myself. So yeah, that's how I did it. I think well, obviously in 2005 I hadn't done any support myself, but I've supported back. So I asked for support first from friends, really, from running friends, and then I give the support back, and that's how it works. And obviously the faster I got, the faster my supporters have to get. But there's always the place for there's always somewhere for somebody. There are people that like to run fast. So like Jasmine and Damien have supported me, and always on leg one, because they're just twice as fast as me. And then my really good friends that know what to do when I throw up, then they're on the later legs.
yeah, it's a different kind of support, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you need it all, don't you? You need all the
Yeah.
different parts of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, brilliant. And you're saying your number of times you've been supporting. I think you've paid your dues, Nicky Spinks, with regards to giving back and it's lovely that you do. I absolutely love that. You mentioned the Pyrenees, so let's take a wee trip across to Europe. You've done quite a lot of events in Europe, very successfully as well. A different kind of challenge. You said you're not a fan of the heat.
Mm.
So do you want to say something about your European adventures?
Yeah, I mean, I actually started with Grand Raid Reunion was my first overseas, but I'd sort of forgotten about that one, and that went really well. And that was because two friends of mine, Amanda and Andrew Heading, were going out. They said what a good race it was. And then I think from there I did the UTMB, which that was I don't know, if you wanted to know about the worst two races, it would be my first UTMB, because I basically did the beginner's error of setting off quite fast, and you don't do that on 100 mile. It really come home to hit you when you're halfway through. Your quads give up on you and you're sick and stuff. That was that first UTMB, yeah. So I had to go back to make that right, which, yeah, I did. I had a much better second UTMB. And then the other really hard race I've done out there is the Tour de Glaciers, which I did last year, because that's 450 kilometers and 32,000 meters of climb, but you don't get any support really. You get less checkpoints than on the Tour de Géants, and not as well stocked checkpoints, and you're self-navigating, and the lack of sleep gets to me. And yeah, I did find that one really hard.
Just reiterate, that was 435 kilometres with 32,000 metres of climb.
Yeah.
Just for anybody double taking.
And
signing up to do that one.
But yeah,
I bet.
you seem to get quite excited there when you were talking about less support, less checkpoints. Is that what drives you to do things on your own, to be self-supported?
I thought it would be different to try that. So yeah.
Was it different?
Yeah, and I think it would have, if I'd known some Italian, that would have helped, because it was the lack of food that really started to affect me, because I wasn't able to ask for the food that I wanted, or wasn't able to ask what food was actually available. So yeah, I started really craving sugar, ice cream, chocolate, anything, any sort of form of sugar. I was getting that down. But
Stephen, it's taken Nicky Spinks 23 minutes to get to food. We have arrived.
I know. I've been wanting to mention it for 20 minutes. John's been wanting to mention it for 22. The fuel and the calories that you're running now. You said, Nicky, around about, when you returned to farming, how, the weight kind of just wasn't so much an issue, rather than sitting sedentary in an office and, going to the biscuit tin or the communal sort of sweeties that appear in offices that you walk past and just delve your hand into a box of miniature heroes or something now. Like, but in terms of the endurance that you then earn through farming has been a little transferable to the needs for your running, and also the body being used to craving quite a lot of calories for fuel, because my in-laws are farmers, and especially my father-in-law, he needs his 3 big meals a day to get him through, and I always often compare it to an ultra marathon of a day for a farmer, on their feet all day. Is that something that, am I far off the mark with that?
No, I think that's right. The more active you are, the more you need to eat.
Yeah.
And I think the more regular you need to eat. So not more regular, but very regular. Like if it's 12 o'clock, that's when my stomach wants some lunch.
Yeah. This is a familiar tale.
Yeah.
And even though my father-in-law is now a retired farmer, at 12 o'clock his stomach still says, my lunch better be on the table. Fortunately, my mother-in-law's soup is of majestic qualities and is always there. But I suppose what I'm getting at is the fact that fueling and getting your body used to taking on all these, all this energy and doing it regularly whilst you're, undertaking quite arduous activity is almost, in some respect, ultramarathon training or long hill run training, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I mean, you need to figure out what you can eat, really. I mean, I went scientific to start with. Oh yeah, okay, so I'm doing this event and I need 5,000 calories, and then you go for all those high calorific foods, and then your stomach on the day just rejects them all, and then you go back to eating normal food and rice puddings and things that your stomach on the day says, yeah, okay, I'll cope with that.
It's what I'm used to.
Yeah.
John needs the detail. I
was going to say,
he needs the detail.
Let's dive into
He
detail.
demands the detail of.
And let's go recent. You're on the DUV site. There's a Tour de Glaciers, and then there's the Ultra Trail of Snowdonia. So let's talk about recent. What's in Nicky Spinks' pack drop bag? What's your chosen fuel of choice just now, Nicky?
Rice puddings always come back. They're always very good, except when they're off. I just had an off one in the Cheviot Goat. I
read that on your
Oh no, it's off. Oh no, I'm not. Yeah, horrible. It's my fault. I leave them in the fridge for months. It's not the company's fault. It wasn't like bought from a shop, because I never eat them unless I'm racing.
Got you. They're almost there just for the sole purpose of fueling your endeavours.
Can I ask though? I do like the detail. Is this a plain rice pudding, or has it got jam?
Yeah, no, plain ones.
Okay.
And I'm quite. Unfortunately, I find I'm quite fussy. So some people like put cinnamon or vanilla or something in. A lot of the European ones, they have to stick something else in them, like cream or whatever, and they're quite foul. The other thing I'd quite like is I don't know why they don't do it, a ring pull on a can of rice pudding, so you don't have to have your tin opener there as well.
Yeah.
So I have to use the little pots, but
little plastic pots.
Yeah, and then I did used to always have a can of Coke in my drop bag, but on the Cheviot Go I tried Iron Brew.
Game changer.
It's a big smile.
Could be. It was nice. So yeah.
We've always wanted to tag bars in the show, so tonight offers us that opportunity. Yeah.
And in fact, the guys in the checkpoint were telling me about the Iron Brew doesn't have as much sugar in it as it used to because of the sugar tax.
That's right.
It was good enough for me. It was
Well, you can get original recipe still. Not in the cans, but in the 750ml bottles. Not quite as handy for carrying around, but it can be decanted into a soft flask.
And is it only rice puddings, or do you go for like I'm going to call it a piece and jam? Would you have something like a jam sandwich or anything like that? A solid?
Maybe pizza.
Oh.
That got it.
Yeah, definitely something solid.
Just a margarita, or what's on it?
Cheese and tomato.
Yeah, probably that, or a cheese and onion, maybe. Yep. Depends how long it's going to be in the drop bag for. That would be a consideration.
Could be weeks, knowing you.
Yeah.
Baked beans, they're always a good option.
Ooh.
In fact, I've got my three go-tos are baked beans, rice puddings, or fruit salads, depending on the temperature. So if it's hot, I tend to eat quite a lot of fruit salads.
Okay, cool.
I still eat my beans cold, but somehow I prefer them when it's cold weather.
Yeah. The Tour de Glaciers. I'm not sure the right pronunciation of that, but I'm just going to go with that. That 7-day race, I'm going to call it, Nicky. And you were saying, so was there drop bags on that? Could you put stuff forward? How much did you have to carry yourself? Was there like, what do they call them?
Yeah.
Life bases or something they call them over there, don't they?
Yeah. I mean, I can't remember how many times we got the drop bag, but the big problem was the last time we saw it, which was Wednesday morning, and we had 100 miles to do to the finish. And I finished on Friday night. So when I changed my t-shirt on Wednesday morning, that was me in my clothes till Friday night, and everything that I had in my rucksack had to do me till Friday night. And they actually stopped the race in the end because the snow came in on Friday, and it got really cold. So they actually stopped the race in the end sometime over Friday, Saturday morning. So yeah, I was actually carrying quite a lot of stuff in my bag because it had to last me 3 days.
I very often wear the same clothes from Wednesday to Friday, but I'm not
Well,
always out running in the mountains, How does it feel to finish a 7-day race?
oh, that was a sense of relief, yeah. But
Yeah.
although I got really fed up of it, and I decided I was going to run quite fast, and then I tripped over and bashed my nose in the last 10K.
The last 10K?
Something like that.
Oh,
I was up on the top of the last hill, and I could see down, I could see all the lights, and I just went flying in this it was a sort of thin cow path, and I just tripped up and really smacked my nose. And then I was worried because I could see there was blood stuff. I didn't bash my knee, and I didn't want them to pull me at the next checkpoint. So I sort of really shot in and shot back out again. I was thinking, you can't stop me. You're not allowed to stop me now. There's no way.
Oh man.
What was that? What was that bolt that just came through there? Just ignore it. It was Nicky with her invisibility cloak on. Fantastic.
I'm just, before we go somewhere else on the planet, I want
jet setting.
Yeah, I want to come back to the Arc of Attrition start of last year. We've spoken with Debbie Martin Kinsani about the Arc of Attrition. We've spoken with Emma Stewart about the Arc of Attrition. What's Nicky Spinks' take on the Arc of Attrition? The reason I'm going back last year is because you finished first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's a great race. It was sort of a bit too flat. That's what I said at the end, and they all laughed because it's got about 5,000 meters of climbing it. But the first half to me was like 2 back-to-back off-road marathons. But yeah, it's quite flat, and I was quite trashed because I don't do that. I don't do fast flat running. I've never done a marathon, but I think I did quite well. But my legs ached in lots of places that they've never ached before because of the fast running in the first sort of half, and then you get all this really gnarly technical stuff, which is just fantastic in the last the last sort of, you get about 30 miles of it. You do 40 miles, and then you get this technical gnarly stuff in the dark, which was great. Yeah, no, it's a great race. Yeah,
most people are thinking the other way around. Nicky's like, right, I'll endure this 55 miles of just boring stuff, and then
undulating
then the fun starts proper, dark,
then I could get
gnarly.
Bell shoes on, and yeah.
Love it.
Awesome.
Okay, are we jetting?
Stateside. Let's go stateside, Stephen.
Let's head over to Frozen Head State Park for the Barclay Marathon experience. How was it for you, Nicky?
This year it was, perfect conditions. I can't say it's I was going to say perfect, and then of course it's not perfect. I didn't finish, but who did? Well, no, 3 people did. But
that's That's
Um,
committed.
yeah. No, it was absolutely brilliant conditions this year. Cold and clear. I couldn't have asked for anything better, really. And I went to, well, I was going to say enjoy it, but enjoy the experience as well, because I've been 2019.
Yep.
It was cold. It wasn't, no, the first day was actually hot. It was too hot, 20, 25 degrees or something. And I found it really hot. And then, but that night it dropped to like -5 or something and snowed on us, and it was really, really cold. So the experience wasn't that great, in that I never really looked around. I was just too busy trying to cope with the conditions. Um, and it was interesting going back sort of as a veteran, but 4 years later. So I wasn't sure what my memory would remember.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really good to actually run with Billy Reid again, who I ran with, well, who I met at the Barclay in 2019, and who I ran with again this time. Because yeah, it was much more of a team effort this time. Well, no, it was last time, but at least me and Billy had done it this time. And Ian Keith, who we ran with, just such a character. I mean, if you haven't had him on here on your pod, no,
No, we'd
he's a
love
real.
to get the
So
chance to speak to him.
yeah, it's the first time I really had a chance to sort of talk in like a lot to him. I passed, maybe, just in passing, I've said words to him, but to spend sort of 24 hours in his company was just hilarious. Yeah, it was just great, and his navigation was spot on. So we all worked really well together as a team, which made it a lot more enjoyable and sort of less stressful. I mean, it was hard work. We did one clockwise loop. Last time I did one clockwise loop and then part of a second clockwise loop. This year we had to do one clockwise loop and then an anti-clockwise. So the anti-clockwise is, you see, I know about going anti-clockwise. I know one way can be easier than the other way. And on this, the anti-clockwise loop is weirdly way harder than the clockwise loop. Some of the climbs were just brutal, and you went round them you went down them and you didn't think too much of them, and then going the other way trying to climb back up them, especially in the heat of the day. Yeah, it was just awful.
How
And
much?
we were trying to go fast to get. So sorry, we were trying to go fast because we knew we were really near the cutoff, and we didn't. Once we knew we were going to be cut off, then we sort of backed off because and enjoyed the sort of rest of it. But yeah, it's so I did 2 loops, one clockwise and one anti-clockwise, and Emma was supporting me. Yeah.
And your race report is a great read, a fantastic read, and some brilliant pictures in there as well. My question, how much did this being your second visit play a part in your mental preparation this year?
Yeah, it was really good because I also knew last year we did staying in tents, and this year I thought, no, I'm not. You've gone all that way. You need to go that extra little bit and get a van for that extra comfort for when because it was actually bitterly cold on the night, and that was a good choice to get a van. And yeah, it was a lot. Well, I thought my mental preparation was really good. Laz knocked me a bit by giving me number 1, but I just then, yeah, it was a bit of a like, oh, that was a shit. But I was actually sat in the car next, and I was sat in a car, and Jasmine was sat next to me marking her map up. Jasmine and Damien had already gone up to get their numbers, and it was Damien that said, oh, do you know he's given you number 1? And I was like, oh, no. And Jasmine just looked at me and went, and I just thought, I've just got to be more like Jasmine. Who gives a chuff? It's a number.
That's Laz with his mind games.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's one of these races that's taken it's caught the imagination of a lot of people, and probably because of the internet, to be honest. A lot of people have now got access to more about it. But I love the fact that the people that are there in the, I was going to call it the playground, the campsite, they totally respect that secrecy, maybe it is secrecy, or to keep the integrity of the event, you know, and to make it, I think, as challenging for anybody that's coming in new to do it for the first time. I love that. And but there seems to be, maybe it was just the last couple of years, there seems to have been a bit of an escalation of Brits going across to do, or people that I recognise anyway, yourself included. Got to ask the question, we're recording this, are you going back, Nicky?
No, I'm not going back. Not as a runner. No, I'll give somebody else. You know, there's only 40 spots, and if I was going to get another one, I think there's probably another worthy woman out there that could probably have a good crack at doing it. And I hope, like I have done with the other rounds, I hope I've just sort of shown what I can do. And there's somebody out there going, well, if she can do that, I could do 5 loops. Because I'd really like, a woman to get out there and do the 5 loops. So no, I'll step down from it. It's a long way to go, and I'm pretty sure I can't do 5 loops or even 3 loops. So if I can't do 2 loops in perfect conditions, I think you've just got to say, I'm not in the habit of just going to do races I can't finish.
Yeah.
Yeah. So somebody else step up there and go and do it.
You listening in, Emma? Anytime you're ready, just
reading my mind as well.
Yeah. But you know what? I think it's brilliant because you've hopefully lit a fire in some people's belly, planted a seed, yourself and Jasmine, that let's go and get it done. You know, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you for speaking about that. Thank you. There are a number of adventures on the list of races and events and adventures that Nicky Spinks has created, participated in, and dreamt about. Is there a favourite?
Oh, a favourite. I mean, the Tour de Géants, I think, has got to be up there. I've done it twice now. Yeah. And that second one was just something special. I mean, it was 2021. So, and it was sort of special because it was almost so hard to get to because of the COVID. And then when I was there, the race just went, I was fitter than what I thought I was. I think I just set off and I was higher up the field than what I thought I was, and I was chilling out. And then when I overtook the lady that was third, and this was it Wednesday or Thursday? So it was quite a nice way. It was quite enough of the way through that I only had a couple of days to like really cane myself, which I did to retain that third. Not that I don't know where, I'm not in the habit of looking at my phone and trying to figure out where people are, but I tried to do that and fell over actually. So it wasn't, so then I just thought, right, just cane yourself as much as you can to get on that podium as third. So it was, I was super proud of that.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And maybe that was a bit of an unfair question to pick a favourite, because you've always had a lot of fantastic experiences out there. But that feeling of you saying like caning yourself, is that something that you seek out to do? Do you find that easy to do, or is that something that brings you pleasure when you're absolutely leathering it and giving it everything?
It's more afterwards. It's not that pleasurable at the time.
Yeah.
I think some people are quite surprised how hard I can push myself for how long I can.
What drives you on though? What drives you on to do that?
I think I just want the luck. I wouldn't like to finish and think I could have done better.
What's
Yeah.
that phrase? Leave nothing out there, is it? That's what they say, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if you're in a race and you've got a position, then you want to keep it. So, you know, like last weekend on the Cheviot Go, I was, you know, you could see headlights running down the road. I was pretty sure they were the two guys that we'd been running with and we'd only just separated from. But I was like, it could be a woman. I'm not letting that light, whatever it is, catch me. Whoever it is, with like 5 miles to go.
Yeah.
No. But yeah.
You mentioned as well earlier, a wee bit earlier, about highs and lows. A big part of the intrigue for me with running, and certainly ultra running, is how people, the mental side of things. How do you want to speak about it? Well, the highs are brilliant. They're the good stuff. Let's speak about the lows, the more challenging things. How does Nicky Spinks get herself back on board?
Well, there's always that with me that I know I'll just come back and do it again. So like the UTS this year, I set off. It was 11 o'clock in the morning. It was forecast to be a hot day, and I think it was the first hot day of the year. And you don't really know how hot it properly is until you finish and supporters are saying it's really hot, because you just think it's really hot because you think it's hot because you're running. But no, that was horrendous. It was just, I did like 6 hours, couldn't figure out what was wrong with me at all, because on the face of it, nothing was wrong with me. So then I even started thinking, have I caught COVID or something? And I never do that. I never sort of question whether I've got a virus when I haven't got a virus, but I just felt that shocking. And then the temperature dropped because it got to about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. But at that point, I was just like, right, you've got two options. You could drop out, or you can carry on and you don't have to come back again and do this horrible race, which it's only horrible because I felt so horrible. It wasn't horrible, if you see what I mean.
Yeah,
But, you know, you just talk yourself round. And then obviously if for me, if it's possible to finish, then I'll finish. So that's, yeah, so on the UTS, I carried on. And my relief when the temperature dropped and I realized that's what it was, at least I knew what it was, and then I could cope with what it was. So then I decided, okay, you run faster, harder during the night, and then because Saturday was just as hot, you can give yourself some slack when it's hot. You can take little rests as you're climbing up a hill and you're overheating and stuff like that. Been in, I don't know. I mean, even the Cheviot Go, that little thought of dropping out came in because I lost my youngest dog 3 weeks ago, and I've just been missing him. And I started off and I was sad and I was running along. I thought, I don't want to be here. I want to be running. He loves the snow. I want to be running with my dogs in the snow. I don't want to be doing this race. And I thought, well, you can't just drop out because of that. Nobody would be proud of you. What about all those people that are suffering and, you know, just stick with it. And I ran into and I think that's what, yeah, dropping out is just not an option. And I ran into checkpoint 1 and Sharon Dyson was there. As soon as I saw her, I wanted to give her a big hug. And she sorted me out with my iron brew and some flapjack instead of the gone off rice pudding, and sent me on my way. And she was like, yeah, the first lady's not, you know, too far ahead. And I knew she really wanted me to catch the first lady. And I wasn't really in the race. I wasn't really racing at that point. I was just going to finish it. And I just ran up to her and gave her a huge hug, and she was like, and I ran off. And I felt so much better for having that hug. So yeah, and then I did really pick up and hardly thought of, you know, my dog after that, because yeah, you know, I had a purpose in the race. I was going to finish the race and I was going to enjoy the race.
Yeah. You okay to speak about your dog? Your dog,
yeah.
obviously, the dogs will play a big part in your life and in
Yeah.
your your race reports and your general news.
Yeah.
Do you want to speak a wee bit about your running companions, aren't they?
Yeah. So I can't remember. So about 3 years after I started running in 2001, I wanted a running dog, and I got one from Huddersfield's kennels, the council kennels, for £20 because he was so skinny, and bless him, he didn't want to really be a running dog. He just wanted to stay in his kennel where it was safe. He didn't want to go anywhere where it wasn't safe. Bless him. But he became my first running dog because he did love running. Well, in the end,
Yeah, choice.
you will enjoy this. Oh, he was so faithful. He was called Scally. Yeah, because he was a little bit of a scally. And then after that, yeah, there's Wisp. So I mean, and then I had Tyke, who was like a puppy, but he didn't travel so well, so he wasn't really a running dog. And then I got Wisp, Wisp's been with me since 2000. I don't know. She's now nearly 12, and she's still doing everything. So yeah, I got Joss in 2021, 2020. Yeah, he was 3. Because Wisp looked to be like slowing down and not able to keep up with me. But actually, what had happened was I was doing too many races and I wasn't running with her. And when COVID happened and we were running every day, Wisp was running with me. And she got super fit. And I realized actually she was able to keep up. It was my fault not taking her out. She got unfit. So then it was really the perfect situation. I had Wisp and Joss. Till Joss just went and died on me. Just, yeah, somebody sent me, Tori from Innovate sent me a photo today of him on the morning of the run, Sunday morning, and he looks as lively and as happy as ever, which is reassuring because I've been worried that I've missed something, that he was in pain and I hadn't noticed.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he just looked, he was bouncing around on that run like backwards and forwards because he likes to be up front, so he was always up front, but then I was at the back, so then he had to come all the way back and then he was up front again. Yeah, so it's just a big shock.
Yeah.
It's when it's something that's as sudden as that, especially.
Yeah,
No, heart goes out to you, Nicky, and yeah, I'm sure. Sounds like
thank you
you'll
for
be.
letting me ramble on about dogs. It's
No,
like
it's
people
important.
It's okay.
It's
They're companions. It's
yeah.
Yeah,
And I suppose what it's all about, it's about cherishing the good memories, isn't it? The happy memories. That's what it's
yeah.
all about. You've had a lot of love, obviously, the dog. Is the name Joss got relevance?
Well, it was just I couldn't decide on a name for him when I got him as a puppy, and then he was trotting down the lane with a stick in his mouth, and he just turned around and gave me a little like twinkly sort of look, and it just reminded me of Joss Naylor because yeah.
He's
So
got
yeah, I called him Joss.
twinkly eyes, certainly. Brilliant. I love that. Thank you very much for sharing that personal insight. Thank you, Nicky.
Thank you
Big
very
time.
much. I've got something I want to quiz you about. It's not on the question set, so apologies. You did the Ocho 2000s this year,
Oh yeah.
so that's my
All right.
hills. They're not my hills. They're other people's, but they're my local range of hills. I'm pointing that way because they're that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's don't know, it's I always say it's quite a wee underrated range of hills. A lot of people just drive by it on their way to bigger and higher and maybe more scenic places. But I was speaking to a colleague of mine today, Dave Turner, John. Dave runs for the
Lomies.
Lomies, the Lomond Hill Runners, and he said that he'd managed to spend some time just around about where you and Angela Mudge were, and he felt that he was in running royalty. So I said that I would check in with you just to acknowledge that moment, plus the fact that you were running in my neighbourhood, in my backyard, so to speak. It can be a bit soggy up there.
Yeah,
That'll
it
be you
wasn't.
in your element.
I don't think it was soggy. Yeah,
No.
yeah, no, it was a good rate. I think that was a warm day as well. Somebody gave me some Coke down at the bottom of that last hill, and that was just what I needed to get me up that hill.
Nectar.
What's that last steep little thing?
Does
Yeah.
it go up? It starts. Is it Stirling Uni? It starts and finishes at.
It started in
Yeah, well, it
Perth this year.
finishes there.
No, that's the Oakle Ultras, John. This
Oh,
is
sorry.
the Oakle 2000s, the hill running race. Fell
Ah,
running to other people.
So when
and
earlier when you said not everybody knows about me, it's been interesting doing the Scottish races because some people don't know me. It's quite nice. I just turn up and they just treat me like any other runner.
that must be nice. No selfie.
Yeah. And then other people go, I was in a supermarket in Inverness and somebody says, "Are you Nicky Spinks?" It's like, what are you doing here?
But you did do the Scottish Hill Running Championship this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get your
Yeah,
cup.
and I did classics as well. Oh, I haven't got a cup yet.
Oh, I
Because
think
they
you
were
get
giving them
you get
out
a
at one of
mug.
the first ones, and I thought, well, I've only done one, so I don't really
Yeah.
deserve it yet.
Yeah, I think you get one
Yeah.
for completing the series. So that'll be completed now.
Yeah.
So you'll be due a mug.
Yeah.
we'll get Dave Turner on the case.
We
He's the man.
will. Yeah. So no, sorry, just wanted to indulge myself in that, just the serendipity moment.
Yeah. Can I take you to? There's an item on your blog, your website, Nicky, and it's called Winter Mondays. We're now we're officially in the winter. People are getting
They
their
started.
longer half-length tights and trousers out. So
Capris.
capris,
Order
yes,
of the day.
yes. So tell us about Winter Mondays, Nicky. What's involved?
Well, I took the series over from Dave Tate in Dark Peak in 2008 or something, and so he set it up, and I've sort of developed it, I suppose. So I've got the website, and yeah, so it's a series of. It was really just. It was like a little club thing. I think there's about 12 people doing it now, because it's still down in Yorkshire, down around Sheffield, Bolstone, and I'm up here. But so it's just a series of races, road races in winter. But I've introduced the trail races. I introduced those in COVID when we couldn't do the hill training sessions. So I devised these trail races, I call them. But my idea was that each one should have a little bit of navigation in, but not too much, so that you're not going to get lost and need to call on mountain rescue out. So slightly challenging, and then you get 10 extra points for doing it in the dark. So that's yeah, because but obviously and because of COVID, I kept it started being an anytime sort of challenge, because initially it was just a Monday night, winter Mondays. We all met, we all did it, but then during COVID, when we couldn't meet, I said, right, okay, you've got a week to do it. Anyone could just go whenever they can, do it some of your time. So it's just an honesty sort of thing. Yeah, there's not really the checkpoints. It's all just honesty. You know, the route's there, and people are. I mean, you know, you only cheat to yourself if you cheat. So, but it's quite interesting, especially in COVID when you're running around on your own. And I'm quite good at imagining that Keith Holmes is just behind me. James Gregory's just in front of me.
No, it's good.
So
I think there's a motivation. There's an accountability there too, especially if it's like a league. There's a league table type thing on the go as well. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that it was mainly road stuff, but you've introduced some trail stuff. Who would have thought that? Eh? Brilliant. Thank you very much.
The Nicky Spinks magic dust has been sprinkled on it with some trails and a bit more vert of it and gnarly stuff, and throw in some navigation as well.
And do it at night.
Do it at night, yeah, without a head torch.
All of that type of thing is making me think about kit. You know, innovate athlete, Nicky, right? But don't feel you've got to speak about innovate stuff. That's absolutely totally. You also can if you wish. But
Nice top
what
you've got on, Nicky.
is very nice. What's the one bit of kit that you would say you put in your bag, or if you're going for a run, it can be training or it can be an event. What's the one bit of kit that you would make sure is always there?
Well, it's really hard, that one, isn't it? Because it depends on the time of year. So at the moment, it would be mitts because my hands get cold. And Innovate do some small warm mitts that are invaluable. And yeah, they were on and off at the Cheviot Goat. So because your hands get quite warm quite quickly in them. But yeah, other than that, I mean, so at the moment, because I've got the spine in a few weeks, I'm always looking at the warm kit, and they've got a new jacket out. Well, no, it's not new. I tested one last year called a Performance Hybrid, and I think that's a really cracking piece of, like, for a lightweight jacket. That's definitely always in my bag at the moment, and I think it definitely will be for the spine as well. So yeah, I do get. It's funny because I don't like running too hot, but I actually get cold as well. But it's a lot easier dealing. Well, for me, you just have to notice you're getting cold before you get cold, and do something about it.
But therein lies the key, Nicky. Can I ask about the mitts? Do you wear like liner gloves or gloves and then the mitts, or just the mitts?
No, I'd usually have like normal fingered gloves on, and then you just put them in the mitts. Yeah.
Yeah. It's that double layer, isn't it? So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And the jacket how heavy is it? Is it wrap-upable?
Yeah, it's wrap-upable.
Yeah.
It's nice. I don't have to go run off and put it on the scales.
It's on the Innovate website, wrap-upable.
Yeah, I've just invented that, I think.
I can see it. Is it packable?
Yeah, wrap-upable.
Wrap-upable.
There'll be marketing people going, wow, we never thought about that word. So, because a lot of the things on the spine, a lot of the photographs that we see on the spine, what a segue that was into 2024.
I know, it was just a way to say that the door has been booted open.
Yeah. But a lot of the things we see, people are wearing like bigger, because of the conditions, bigger jackets that don't look wrap-upable. It's like because you've got them on for quite a long time. So that jacket that you mentioned, the hybrid one, is that a jacket you would wear on the spine, or would that be one of your layers on the spine?
I think I'd wear the thicker thermal, then the thinner jacket, and then a waterproof
shell.
Yeah.
A shell, and then maybe something over that. I've got what, like the old. I've got an Alpkit smock, which is like the old buffalo smocks. So that's huge, but that is not packable really. It's you either wear it or you don't wear it, I think.
Or leave it behind.
Because it would take up a lot of my rucksack.
Yeah.
Was it this year? The weather was a bit changeable in the spring. There's a couple of blue sky days, wasn't there?
Yeah, they set off and it was fairly wet and windy down in Marsden, well, Edale, up to, and then it got cold. Well, while it was raining down there, it was snowing on the Cheviot, so they sort of all went up into the snow. So it then got cold, but I think it was cold and clear rather than cold and horribly snowy.
I'm excited about this.
Interesting.
Are you excited? Are you excited about the spine, Nicky?
Yeah. I love the way it goes from Edale up and down all Hebden and up down little steep valleys and fields and gates and everything like that, and then you just get further and further into the more and more gnarlier, wetter, boggier more exposed stuff.
Mm.
Mm.
You just
Hear
have
the
to do the
change.
warm up
Yeah, I
get
can
to
just
the proper good stuff.
you can hear the change in Nicky's voice when she gets to the gnarly stuff. Brilliant.
Bring it on.
Brilliant. Ah,
I know.
what how have you prepared for the spine? I know you've done a lot of sort of tough gigs, races, but how have you prepared for the spine specifically?
Well, I've been out on the route a little bit, but I've been doing the Scottish Classics actually, the longer races,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't jump straight back into racing after COVID. I sort of, I don't know, chilled out a bit. It was almost like before COVID, I was racing nearly every week, and after COVID, I thought, well, what shall I do? I quite like chilling out. Quite like being at home. Husband likes me being at home, and yeah, and I like running with my dog, so I didn't want to get back into it. So the Scottish Classics were a great way actually, and the championships. So I stuck all those in my diary and very little else.
Okay.
But they really actually complemented it because there's quite a lot of running in them. So for the spine, there's a lot more running than what there is, say, in the Bob Graham, because you're not climbing so much of the steep mountains. You're actually doing a lot more runnable stuff, and that for me was the hard bit. So I've been doing a lot more forest tracks, which I don't really like, but I've got actually a lot better at them. When you're better at them, then you find you like them a bit more.
Do you, side question, do you do things like yoga, Pilates, all that sort of stuff, stretchy stuff?
I've made myself up a strength thing. Well, it's core stability more than strength and conditioning, and I do that twice a week now because I get sort of just niggles, hamstrings, and
Yep.
yeah. And I think that's important now that I'm getting older and I'm not farming. So when I was farming, I didn't need to do any of that. My core stability was quite good. I was humping bales and stone and dry stone walling and stuff. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Can we've mentioned a few times about the, not specifically about the dark, but the sort of navigation. And I know that from social media stuff, you've been out and about with Girls on Hills. Do you want to speak a wee bit about Girls on Hills, and we'll give them a wee plug?
Yeah. No, I met Nancy supported me on a Ramsey years and years ago, and that's how I met Kerry. And then when they started up Girls on Hills between them, they asked me to do their ultra running weekend, which is usually in the end of October, November. And yeah, they're just really organized, and the way that they try and encourage women predominantly onto the hills, but they'll guide for men as well. But yeah, the courses are sort of women only, which is it's really nice to get a group of women out there, because I think the thing with women is we don't have as much confidence as men generally. So it's more than you need more encouragement to actually give things a go. So yeah. And then
And
since
what,
I moved up to Scotland, of course, I'm only really 3.5 hours from them. So it's a lot easier than 7 when I was.
and just by way of a direct plug, what would you say to anybody thinking about getting involved with that? Because a lot of people will hesitate, and you're saying that guys are maybe a bit more confident. Guys are also maybe a bit more hesitant to say, I'm not quite sure what's happening. I'm fine, I'll be all right, I know what I'm doing. There's a bit of that as well. But what would you say to specifically ladies then that were thinking about maybe going to go for a Girl on the Hills weekend? Would you encourage them?
Yeah, because the courses are really open to everybody, the abilities. So the runs that they would do, so if there was 12 women, there's always a natural split, and then there can be just either different runs or a shorter run. But the run that we do, we went it's in April, going to Arran. I mean, Nancy and me, we organised that one because Aaron's, well, I love Nancy's life, and I'm really just across the water. I just sort of think of it as over there now. And yeah, that's a really sort of great weekend where sort of 10, 12 women get together, and we take them up on the hills and we guide them and then show them some techniques uphill and downhill and with poles and things like that. So yeah,
Brilliant.
just
love that. Polls, that's a whole different podcast episode, Nicky. Polls. We'll have to come back, maybe speak to us about that.
We've already
sorry.
had a sneak peek into your 2024, or very much the January portion of your 2024. John and I will be thought watching intently of that particular Spine week. It's one of the our January highlights, if not our annual highlights, is watching that. But apart from the Spine, Nicky, any other big 2024 aspirations?
I don't think so at the moment. No, the Spine's sort of been all-consuming at the moment.
I bet.
And yeah, I don't know whether to go back over into Europe. Maybe the Swiss Peaks. Yeah.
Swiss
Or
Peaks
whether to
360,
stay
is
in
that
the
one?
country. So yeah, explore Scotland some more.
It is a veritable playground out there where your new abode is.
Yeah.
And like you say, 3 hours or so, and you're up in the wilds. It's a lot more accessible for you than it used to be. So beware all the Scottish record holders. Nicky's out to get you.
You know what? We should go back. We've mentioned the Cheviot Go a couple of times been mentioned. We should say that you finished first lady in that event.
Yeah.
Just recently. Almost 2 hours ahead of the second place lady. So those lights that you saw, and maybe you were cool. Everything was good, but you don't know that at the time when it's dark. You know, you don't know that at the time. Okay, we've got 2 final big questions, Stephen.
We do.
Yeah.
We ask all our guests, Nicky, for a word to throw into our legendary dialect dictionary. Could be a word that you've picked up along the way, something that's used from where you originally come from. Is there a submission from Nicky for the dialect dictionary?
Well, I don't know where I heard of this, but it's frame yourself. And I looked it up today, and it's very Yorkshire, and it means get a move on or sort yourself out, or so you generally say it to somebody else, but I often say it to myself when I'm slacking or faffing or something. I just think, you just got to frame yourself a bit, sort yourself out, get going with this. So that's
yourself.
That's
a new one.
I can tell you've not heard about it.
I've
So,
not.
yeah.
But you've described it really well, and I know exactly. It's like get a hood of yourself. That's what I'd say.
Exactly
Stephen,
that.
get a hood of yourself, mate, because you're making an arse of this. Something like that. Is that how I'm receiving it?
Yeah. I was gonna ask earlier on when we spoke about lows and about that mental resilience, if you had any mantras. I suppose that could be a sort of mantra. Frame yourself, Nicky Spinks, for the love of God. Come on. I'm going to run that past our Yorkshire correspondent. We have a Yorkshire correspondent, Mel Sykes, and I'm going to run that past Mel to see what she comes back with.
Yeah.
So, thank you for that.
Mel's a bigger authority on Yorkshireisms than Nicky, by the way.
Oh, she might challenge that. Ooh. You know, she's a strong woman, as is Nicky. But thank you very much, Nicky. And our final question for you of this episode is a song. We've got a very eclectic mix of tracks that guests have nominated for listeners' pleasure. Sometimes people get fed up listening to us. Surprise, surprise. and they'll rather listen to either nature or maybe a playlist. So we're currently on collection volume 6.
Yeah.
What song or track would Nicky Spinks like to add in for our listeners' pleasure?
Well, as soon as I thought of this, just at the moment, it would be St. Elmo's Fire by John Parr, because it's just a song that I've always liked. And I think when I'm thinking of my dog, I just think that's where he'll be, on top of a mountain. So I think that's a tribute to Joss as well.
Brilliant. It's a bit of an anthem, that one, isn't
Yeah.
it? You know, it's a rousing, upbeat, heart pumping.
Yeah.
Let's go. Brilliant. I love that. Thank you very much, Nicky. We'll get that added to the playlist.
It's already
Thank
added.
you.
It's done. It's done. It's there.
Nervous with a smile.
Nicky, this has been so quick. Honestly, the time has just flown in. You started off and you were talking about when you were starting to think about doing training, about, you said you do the same, you stay the same. You've not stayed the same. It's like you've sought out these challenges to push yourself, and I love that, and I hope that people listening in will think, we've got to push yourself. Debbie Martin Kinsani, I think it was, said to me, the first person I remember saying, you've got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's when we find out, we push that limit, push that again. An amazing, absolutely amazing career in running that's maybe just getting started. You know, there's lots more to come. So I want to thank you very much for your time. I'm going to hand over to Stephen, but I want to say our very best wishes for the spine and whatever else comes next. Thank you, Stephen.
No, thank you very much, Nicky. Just echoing just what John said. Thanks for giving up your time and to talk to us, and just hit us with some of your wisdom. And I think that it's the simplicity of it that comes over to me. Is it's no overcomplicated. You're doing something that you love, and it's so apparent that you're doing something that you love and that you're grateful for. And I think I can take something away from that, and I'm sure all our listeners will as well. So thank you so much. We'll hopefully catch you out in the Scottish Hills at some point. It would be an absolute
definitely
honour. Thank you so much.